So guys, welcome to this module in the course. Now in this module, I want to be talking about looms and whether you should use them within your outreach and whatnot. Now, given that you've watched every single module up until now, you would have seen in the kind of ideal prospect and how to find them and really how to structure, your stake outreach. You would have seen in there that I was talking about doing retargeting looms. Now, I kind of touched on what to go through and whatnot within that section, but obviously that wasn't really tailored to looms as a whole. So let's talk about looms. Let's talk about how to really use them to their most effective level, and also go in depth about, how to use them in terms of retargeting and how that differs to using them on cold. First things first, when looms are most effective. On initial contact, looms are not effective at scale. Now, here's what I mean by this, okay? So on initial contact, if you was reaching out to a brand completely cold, you've never spoke to them before, well, at that point, if you're doing those, reaching out to those types of brands at scale, then looms are not effective because, it may take you 10, 15 minutes to record it, may take you, another 5 minutes to slightly edit it or whatever you need to do, then copy the link, then put it into the email, then create the email, then send it off. Right? That's going to take a long time. And as I mentioned in there, if you're doing that at scale, you're trying to hit, 30, 40, 50 brands a day, like that's just not going to work. Okay. So looms are not effective at scale. However, once you have a prospect who has shown a certain level of intent, that is when looms become unbelievably effective. And again, we've kind of touched on this, but let's go into it a bit more depth. So as I say in the first point, on initial contact, looms are not effective at scale. But once we've got some data points with brands that have, through whatever mediums it may be, as I said in the previous modules, I talk about whether as to whether they've opened the emails and how many times. Obviously, as you guys now know, you want to ensure that that the brand you send the retargeting loom to has opened the email 3 or more times, or they've replied back to you and you guys are now in conversation, but the brand just doesn't seem to be setting the meeting. They keep asking questions, whatever the case may be. In both of those circumstances, the prospect has shown a certain level of intent, right? And you guys know yourself, like you don't open emails 3 or more times if you're not somewhat interested in what the email has to say, in what the email's covering, whatever the case may be. So in both of those instances, 3 or more times the emails have been opened or they've replied back. In both of those instances, you want to send a retargeting loom. Now, moving on, here is an example retargeting loom I made. So this is an actual loom that I, literally made and covering the exact same things that I go through when I send my own personal retargeting looms out. Now, one thing I will say is I highly, highly recommend that you have your video on and obviously the audio like I do. You'll see in the example that I created, it's actually, there's no video, but I highly recommend when you actually physically send out your retargeting looms, I highly recommend you put your video on, simply because the loom obviously serves a lot of purposes, right? The retargeting loom serves a lot of purposes. First things first being that, it's an actual person behind the screen, and it's not just some random like copy paste emails from some like bot or something, so they can actually get that personal touch. And the two ways they get that is by hearing your physical voice and also actually seeing you behind the screen. And the other, obviously the other super important point that this kind of retargeting looms serve is simply the fact that it shows them that you're being genuine. It shows them that you're actually talking about their specific brand. Again, tying in with the point I just made, in that, it just kind of weeds out the thought process or maybe the limiting belief that they have in that it may be just like a bot or something like that sending these emails out of scale. Just puts a personal touch behind it. So again, tying in back with what I said at the start, always make sure you have your video on and the audio. But with that being said, in the example I'm going to show you here in a minute, I actually don't have my video on, but I highly recommend you should when you do this, in real life. So here is an example of a retargeting loom I made. Hey Leanne, I hope you're doing really, really well. As you know, I've sent a few emails to yourself and the company, over the past week or so. And essentially, obviously, first things first, I just wanted to mention, I completely understand your skepticism, and you're probably thinking, as I kind of touched on in one of the emails, you're probably just thinking, he's another one of those marketing agencies and whatnot. And look, I completely without a doubt 100% understand. With that being said, though, I just wanted to send over this quick video just to touch on a few things, that I personally can see from a marketer's point of view in terms of just really how your competition is just getting a really, really unfair advantage over you. Also, I just wanted to touch on the fact that I genuinely believe, Leanne, that your business, Billy J, I genuinely believe that this brand really does outweigh all your competitors in terms of physical products, in terms of, the level of those products and whatnot. But just because your competition is kind of taking advantage of paid traffic and really just using paid traffic and online marketing as a whole to its fullest potential, they're getting an unfair advantage over you. And I think really that should be you getting that advantage. So I just wanted to touch on a few things. It's going to be really, really quick. First things first, I just wanted to mention that it's really good to see you actually running some sort of ads. Majority of people aren't even running any ads. So the fact that you're running 20, or you've got 29 results currently running, it's really, really good to see. And it's nice to see that, you're running on both Facebook and Instagram. Something I did want to touch on though is just in terms of the creatives of your ads. I can see just from face value, obviously everything I'm going through here today is just what I can see from face value. And again, as I mentioned, I can see from face value that there's not too much variation in your creatives. Obviously, there's only one video being played or being run, I should say. And, there's a few different types of creatives here. And again, it's good to see different creatives. But I think, something that I've really seen just really take my current clients to the next level is by split testing ads in terms of copy and creatives. And that is really where we see amazing results start to come in. And so that's just one thing, as I mentioned, I can see from face value is just, I would like to see more, or if we were to go ahead and whatnot, I'd like to see more variation in terms of creatives. Also, same principle goes for copy. Now I can see you've got different types in terms of, different types of copy in terms of what you're physically saying. But also what I'd like to do as well is really do different formats of copy in terms of, story form, short and sharp, like you're doing here. And then also benefit copy, pain point copy, competitor copy. Like there's just so many different types. And that's another thing I'd really like to test. And then obviously really just scale this up as well, because 29 results, as I say, it's a great start. But 99% of my clients are all running over like 400 ads. So that's the first thing that I can just see from face value. Now let's pull up a competitor of yours. Now, obviously Showpo, quite of a large competitor of yours. And really straight off the bat, we can see that, 390 results. So they're just really using it at scale and really just using Facebook ads and paid traffic as a whole to its fullest potential. And that's where they're getting their unfair advantage over you. If we just dive a little bit deeper, we can see that they're doing a lot of variation. This is just video. So there's two there, there's another variation here, and that's just video. And then they've obviously got still images in terms of, their different variation of still images with, some writing over the top, just really doing a lot of variation. Now, I still personally believe that they're not using, variation in their copy as they should be. But we can see that they are using Facebook and Instagram ads overall to its full potential. And as I mentioned before, that's at the point where they are getting their unfair advantage over you. And essentially what they're doing, Leanne, is just stealing sales from you. At the end of the day, it just comes down to the fact that they're stealing sales and customers away from you that could quite easily be your customers and be your sales. But because they're using, because you're not using Facebook and Instagram to its full potential, they're just getting that unfair advantage over you. And as I touched on before, I personally think that your brand is a lot higher quality. And I'd personally prefer to go to your brand than really majority of your competition. But again, your competition is getting that unfair advantage over you simply because they're taking full advantage of Facebook and Instagram ads and really just paid traffic as a whole. So I hope this kind of ignites the fire inside of you. I hope you can now kind of see from my point of view as a marketer and, an agency owner, what I can see and really just how your competition is literally just stealing money at the end of the day away from you and your brand. So Leanne, I'm going to leave my scheduler in the link, in the email, at the bottom of the email. I implore you to go ahead and schedule in a meeting, because really, I didn't really touch on much in this video. I wanted to save the stuff that's actually going to change your business and actually going to scale your business to a new dimension. I wanted to save that information for the call, where I can really just sit down and have a chat with you one-on-one and really just go through everything in a lot more deep detail. And really just from that call, you're going to be able to scale your business to a new dimension just from the call, whether we move forward or not. So I implore you again, Leanne, to go ahead and schedule in that meeting. And from there, we can really see where we can scale Billy J. So without further ado, go ahead, schedule in that meeting. It's going to add to both of our calendars. And yeah, Leanne, I hope you enjoy the rest of your week. And I cannot wait to speak to you very, very soon. Thank you so much, Leanne. So as I say, guys, that is an actual example of a retargeting loom that I would send out. And here in a minute, you can see the last point here, I'm going to do an example of a cold loom. And I want you guys to really see how it differs and kind of the different tone that I take in terms of both, because they do differ because, again, it's like with Facebook ads, the way that you construct an initial ad, and an ad, the way that you construct an ad that goes out to a cold audience is very, very different to the way that you construct an ad that's going to a retargeting audience. The same concept applies, okay? With retargeting looms, you want to kind of go about it in a different way. You want to kind of position yourself and tone yourself and just the physical things you say as well. You need to be making sure that you're going about it in a different way. So you've already seen the retargeting loom. As I say, let's move on to cold. And really, let's move on to, should you use Loom on cold outreach? And very simply, yes, you should, because they work. But as I mentioned in the previous slide, you don't want to use them at scale, because when you use them at scale, it becomes very inefficient and it just really prolongs the process. If you want to reach out to 50 brands, it prolongs that process so much, okay? So that's why I highly recommend that you use email outreach. Now, why I say you should though, because they work, in the cases that you should, is on the one-off. Maybe you could do one a day or something like that, really, where it's not too, it's not too important, the fact that they're not efficient. If you're only sending like one a day, that's not too bad at all. When you want to send out those types of looms on cold outreach, is simply when you come across a brand, maybe this brand has that gut feeling, like you 1000% know that if you get the client on board, like you're gonna absolutely kill it. Those brands that you really, really want to work with, like more so than any other brand out there. Or another super powerful way to, actually reach out to brands with cold looms is actually if you order a product online from a brand that's not really a big net. Obviously, if you get an order from, if you order from Nike or something like that, it's not going to work. But if you order from like a somewhat of a no-name brand and you search them up, and you, again, tying in with that, what I said initially, in that you can see very, very easily that you're going to be able to kill it for them, then I would send a cold loom. And on the cold loom, how you can kind of introduce things is by saying that you physically ordered a product from them, right? And, given your inquisitive nature and all that kind of stuff, that's how you can start it and really go on to sell them on the meeting, okay? And again, all of this really just marries in with that third point there, which is use them as a side dish. So use cold looms as a side dish. Going back to what I've been talking about within this kind of outreaching week, is you want to have your steak. Personally, I recommend cold emails being your steak. That's what you focus on 100%. But a side dish that you could use is 100% Loom on cold outreach, okay? Very, very effective. And again, you maybe want to send one a day, maybe one a week. And it's going to be very, very effective. And again, I'm not against cold looms, because a lot of people that watch my videos and whatnot think I'm against cold looms, and I'm really not. I'm just against using them at scale. So you want to use them as a side dish. Now, as I mentioned before, here is an example of a cold loom. I hope you're doing really, really well. My name is Kai Bex, and I actually own an online marketing agency that specifically specializes in e-commerce brands. And it's funny, actually, my girlfriend orders so much from Billy J. And she's always going on about how amazing, you guys and, the team at Billy J is, and the quality of products and whatnot. And I actually wanted to take a look at, the packaging and the products and all that kind of stuff. And I actually realized, like, honestly, your products, your packaging, the shipping, just everything, just in really the entire customer experience is so amazing. I was genuinely shocked at how high level it is, right? So given my inquisitive nature as a marketer, obviously I do, as I mentioned, own an online marketing agency for e-commerce brands and whatnot. And so, given my inquisitive nature, I actually wanted to take a deep dive and really just have a look at what you were guys doing on the kind of online marketing front, and just just how you were looking on your socials and your Facebook and all that kind of stuff, and really like where you were coming at in terms of paid traffic and what you were doing in terms of paid traffic. And I just wanted to say, first things first, straight off the bat, Instagram looks amazing. Very, very strong foundation, which looks really, really good. I can see you're very, very active in terms of posts. Really good to see. Always got a story. I love all of these, story highlights, and your feed looks amazing. And so this actually prompted me to go even further and look a lot even deeper, because I can see that your foundation on Instagram and all that kind of stuff looks amazing. And I always look for that within, my current clients and whatnot. So I wanted to dig a little bit deeper. So what I actually went ahead and did was pull up your Facebook, and I came into your ad library. Now, this is where I actually got slightly shocked and slightly taken back, Leanne, simply because given the high level of your foundation in terms of Instagram, given just the customer experience, as I somewhat touched on before, that you deliver for all of your customers. Obviously, I've somewhat experienced that through kind of my girlfriend and whatnot. I was honestly really, really shocked at what you were doing online. And this is nothing against you. I was just shocked, as I say, in terms of how you were going about online marketing and really just paid traffic as a whole. So we can see here you got 29 results, and that's a really good start. And it's really good to see that you've got some sort of results going, and some sort of results, you've got somewhat of a foundation on Facebook ads and, paid traffic online. But I was also quite shocked at kind of just how you were structuring your ads in terms of, the creatives and whatnot. Now, we can see it's somewhat one-dimensional in terms of just still images. I know you got a few videos here, but it's really just only one variation of video going to different audiences. So that was the first thing. I was just shocked at how much you were leaving on the table when it came to running ads and whatnot, in terms of how much money you were leaving on the table. Because, as I say, for all of my clients and whatnot, we always make sure that we're running a whole heap of different types of creatives and whatnot, because you never know what resonates most with your kind of target audience and whatnot. So you always need to be making sure that you're putting a variety of different creatives and different formats in front of your ideal customer and whatnot. That's just the first thing. Now, the second thing was the same kind of concept applies to the copy. Just these one lines, sometimes it's really good and you can get, really good sales and ROAS and all that kind of stuff using the one lines. But I like to, again, make sure that I've got a whole heap of variation within my ads. So, I go for like short and sharp copy, like somewhat you've got here. I also go for story form. I also go for benefit copy, pain point copy, competitor copy. Really, there's just so many different types that I always test. And I've seen that, you guys were kind of relying on one source. And that was another thing that really jumped out at me. And I can 100% guarantee you that there's so much money being left on the table just in terms of the lack of the ads and the variations of ads. And again, this is stuff that I'm getting from face value. This obviously, as you know, this isn't without me going into the back end and really looking in depth. This is just what I can see from face value. And again, from face value, I can just easily see that there's so much money being left on the table. As well as the fact that I can just see straight off the bat that you're not using Facebook ads and online marketing to its fullest potential. And I think that's really, really going to, almost, take away from the potential in terms of scale that you guys can have with the company Billy J. Now, I've also gone ahead and pulled up a competitor of yours, Showpo. I feel like they are one of your bigger competitors. And, I did the same thing. I kind of took a bit of a deep dive and went down the rabbit hole in terms of this brand here. And I can see straight off the bat, they are clearly leveraging Facebook ads to its full potential and really just using it to its fullest potential. And that is resulting in them, simply because they're using it to its full potential, that's naturally resulting in them stealing customers and stealing sales away from you and your brand. Literally stealing money away from you at the end of the day. That's what it comes down to. And really, the only reason they're stealing money and stealing customers away from you, Leanne, is because they're using Facebook ads and online marketing to its fullest potential, whereas you guys are not. Okay, and that's really all it comes down to. And, you know, I've gone through and we can just see straight off the bat that they're using variations of videos and different kind of images and videos and, you know, variations within those. Still, I personally would say their copy is somewhat, it can have a lot of work done to it, but they're using variations, and as we can see here, they just really are using it to its fullest potential. And as I said before, this is just naturally resulting in them stealing money and stealing sales and customers away from your brand. And again, this is not me being biased. This is just genuinely what I see. I honestly believe you guys are one of the best, if not the best, in kind of the clothing industry, especially within Australia. Again, just given the customer experience you guys provide, I was genuinely shocked. So the fact that the likes of these companies, and I have nothing against these guys, but the fact that they're stealing customers away from you and essentially stealing the market away from you each and every month just is so unfair, because I know that your product, your shipping time, your overall customer experience, all that stuff is far, far superior to these competitors that are getting more of the market share than you. So I really, really wanted to just bring this to your attention, Leanne, and just show you the amount of money that's being left on the table. And really just with a few easy tweaks and a real solid strategy to be implemented, how you can now start finally just getting the recognition, getting the revenue that you guys truly deserve. So honestly, Leanne, I've not really gone too much in detail in terms of what I truly think. I've really left the stuff that's going to change your business, you know, long term, the stuff that's actually going to scale your business and really just take your business to a whole new dimension. I've left all that stuff and all that information for a meeting where I want to sit down with you and just really go through with you one-on-one exactly where I can see kind of your downfalls when it comes to your online marketing, and where I personally think that if we can change and implement a few things here and there, I know without a doubt that we're going to be able to scale your business to a new dimension and really just keep, scale, but also increase profitability, scale the top line, but also increase bottom line as well. So I'd love to have a quick 45 minute chat with you, Leanne, just to discuss kind of this leaky side of the business. So without further ado, I will have left my scheduler at the bottom of the email. Go ahead, schedule in a time that works best for you, and we can finally just fix this side of the business and really just give you and the team at Billy J the recognition that you guys deserve. And again, as I mentioned, just scale the entire business to a new dimension. So with that being said, Leanne, I truly hope you enjoy the rest of your week, and I honestly cannot wait to speak with you very, very soon. Thank you so much, Leanne. So guys, you can see within that one, compared to the retargeting loom I did, the tone's very different, how I start it, how I introduce myself, how I end it, it's all very, very different. So you really want to make sure you know who your audience is. Again, it's the exact same concepts as doing running ads to cold audiences on Facebook in comparison to running ads to retargeting audiences on Facebook. So you just want to make sure that you tailor the way that you construct your loom to the audience that it's going to, whether it be retargeting, i.e. somewhat warm in that they've shown a certain level of intent, or conversely, if you're doing it on cold, it needs to be different. But guys, again, I highly, highly recommend you start leveraging looms on cold as your side dish. And of course, you use the looms on retargeting when somebody's shown a certain level of intent and you guys know how to depict the level of intent a brand shows. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this module in terms of looms. I highly, highly recommend you use it because they are effective, but only when you use them as side dishes as opposed to your main steak. But with that being said, guys, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next module.